This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
And now, your host, Kyle Youmans.
Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2025, and we are 42 days away from the NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin, as we are officially 6 weeks out today, a month and a half. It's a sprint.
Let's get it.
It's a 40-yard dash now, 42-yard dash, I guess. If
Unless you're Will
talking
Johnson.
about it, yeah.
42-yard dash. What did Barry Church run in the 40? It's number 42.
Hey, that's a great 42.
He was in the force.
I think it was like 4 sevens or something.
Yeah, out of Toledo.
469.
Was that what it was?
469.
Oh. Yeah. He was meant to be in Dallas then.
It's all right.
What is that supposed to
469 area code.
mean? Is there a
DFW.
469?
Yes, there's a 469 in DFW. Come on, Kyle. There's a
Is there?
469 area code.
That's like the Frisco area code.
469-972-214.
Wow.
Come on, Kyle.
This Waco guy.
Yeah, 254, baby, all day, every day, 254. All right, welcome in. We've got Nick Harris, Bryan Broaddus, Voch Lombari with Bobby Belt. I'm Kyle Youmans with Chris Beam and company in the back, putting up some great film as we go along in this show. I want to talk about kind of the last 24 hours or so. The Cowboys front office was pretty busy, kind of maneuvering some, whatever you want to look at it, depth pieces. You can look at it as maybe potential starters around the way. A couple of trades, one of which, actually a couple of which that were guys that were talked about on this show back whenever they were coming out in the NFL draft. Guys like Kaiir Elam, who's coming out of Florida, was a first-round pick in his own right. Solomon Thomas, again, first-round pick, third overall on the draft show. Talked about him quite a bit whenever he was making his way out as a defensive lineman. And then Kenneth Murray was a linebacker out of Oklahoma that we talked about. The trades all happening and the signings all happening over these last 48 hours. And Nick, when you look at kind of the way that the roster construction has gone, does it affect anything so far on what is happening in terms of the NFL draft? Or can we kind of get an idea and read between the lines here of what the Cowboys front office is thinking?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, free agency is kind of your layup for what you need in the draft. Now, granted, when you're looking at this team and the moves that they've made over the course of the last few days, it's more so addressing the depth issues, in my opinion. You look at the corner position, going and getting Kaiir Elam. That's just a guy that you can hope can compete for a spot on the outside until Trayvon Diggs can be back, and then maybe kind of be your Amani Oruwariye in a sense, where he's that first rotation guy in at best case scenario. Then you look at Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn adding much needed depth to that linebacker room. Not only do you have DeMarvion Overshown coming back from injury, but that room is also young. So bringing in two guys who have been in the league for a cup of tea, it definitely will help that room out as well. Now, I think we talked about Javonte Williams on Tuesday, but yeah. I think on the offensive side of the ball, there's still probably some need for depth, and specifically at running back, specifically at receiver. So that's where you start to look in the draft maybe a little bit more. And you still need a lot of depth at corner. One guy is not going to fix the issue that you have at corner right now. So I'm still looking at those three positions as probably the most likely for premium picks in the draft.
Does it change anything at linebacker or corner for you at all?
This is my thing, right? And I don't want to talk crazy about people while I'm in their building, I just, if this is all about depth, then perfect. If this is about the guys that are at the bottom of the roster, cool. But I have an odd feeling that in about 2 months, we're going to be like, oh, yeah, we had to play a game today. We could play with Kenny Murray at linebacker right now. Yeah. We can play with such and such starting right now, and I don't want that to be the situation. I don't want, and I say us because I'm more fan guy. I don't work here. But when I say like the Cowboys, right, I don't want them to be like, all right, we're just trying to fix this bottom of the roster. I think most of Cowboy fans want them to fix the top of it for the most part. So yeah, I mean, you still got to draft, and me and Bryan just had this convo last night. It's like the pressure that's on the draft. You know what I'm saying? Like if this is a year, like you want to hit 1, 2, and 3 if you can. This ain't one of those years where, okay, well, let's develop our third round guy and see where he is in 3 or 4 years. Like you need all your guys on deck. And I think this is about as good as the offseason acquisitions are going to go. I think this is as high as it's going to get. I still think we're going to lean on draft and we're going to fill out the rest of it in undrafted free agency. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of Cowboys fans out there that feel that way, Bryan. But I just in talking with those around the building and kind of the general feel, I think they're addressing 11 through 53. We've had that conversation before, right? When you look at 1 through 10 on this Cowboys roster and you stack them up against some of the other teams across the NFL, you feel pretty good about what you have 1 through 10. The Micahs and the CDs and the Daks and the Tyler Smiths of the world, just to name a few. But it's 11 through 53. They're addressing that right now.
Yeah.
Are they going to get there and address another spot in that 1 through 10 and push somebody out of the top 10? That's what they want to do.
I'll continue with you on one point. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
I think these moves have more so been addressing 30 through 53.
Okay.
That's fair. They need the 11 through 30 now. Like they still got to bring
legitimate
in some guys
starters
who could be a legitimate starter. Like, Kenneth Murray can be a starter for you, but I mean, instincts are going to have to take a giant step forward under Matt Eberflus. You hope scheme can kind of help that. I think Jack Sanborn's a really good player. I think he's going to end up being a pretty good player for this team. But you still need that 11 through 30, in my opinion. And that's where you go in the draft in the first round, second round, third round, and you hope those guys hit. But like you said, you don't really have an opportunity to let those guys develop. You have to have those guys hit right now.
In 2025.
You couldn't have another year where you let talent walk out the building. They couldn't have back-to-back years where the depth is also just walking out the building and they did nothing about it. So, to me, it's more about like what Nick was talking about. I think replacing those guys and hopefully you get something out of it. I agree with you about Sanborn. I think that Solomon Thomas could be a really good player here as a 3 technique as well. So, I am very, very hopeful for some of those additions. But, to me, this was about trying not to just completely lose all the depth that they had built up over those teams that were 12-5 for those 3 years.
And I like the way you put it. The 30 through 53 is perfect because, like you said, you're not going to put a Solomon Thomas in the 1 through 30 mark. You're not going to put a Kenneth Murray in the 1 through 30. Can they work their way up there? Can Kaiir Elam be in that category? Possibly if they have a great season. Where do you feel like they can add that 11 through 30 right now, Bobby, when you're looking at this roster? Is there anything out there from a free agent standpoint, a trade standpoint, that you can say that's a spot where they have the capital to do so?
Like the one area where I look at right now and I say I don't think they have a starting player there right now is their number 2 receiver. Like I don't think they've got a 2 receiver right now. Luckily, if you want to just hold out some hope and say Dallas gets more involved in free agency than they typically have been or on the higher end of the market, receiver is one of the areas that still has not been completely picked over in free agency right now. There's still plenty of them out there who could probably step in and contribute at a 2 or 3 level for you here. So I said it this morning on 105 Through the Fan. To me, it's Dallas has to get comfortable with paying an uncomfortable price or get comfortable with not having guys come in here and fill those roles because you're going to have to then just lean completely on the draft. So to me, receiver, do you want to stand around and see, okay, what does the market play out like for Stephon Diggs or Cooper Kupp or any of these free agents or Amari Cooper or whoever it may be? Do you want to stand around there and just go, okay, do you come down to a level that we're comfortable with, or do you come into a range where, all right, we take a little bit of a step up from discomfort, you take a little bit of a step down from where you wanted to be, and we can meet in the middle? Can you go find the Randall Cobb signing from a couple of years ago? But you're probably going to have to pay even more than that just because that was 1 year, $5 million, 5-6 years ago.
Or the Brandon Cooks trade.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to go find something like that. That's the biggest area where right now I say I need a contingency there. You've got your contingencies in other areas, and that seems to always be the moniker from the Cowboys and free agency is contingencies. Free you up, pick best player available when you get to the draft. Receiver is an area where I don't know that they've got contingencies right now. I
think you still need another one at corner too.
Yeah. Why do you guys think the ghosting thing didn't work out? Because, could it be like, well, he costs too much money, we don't want to bring Ghostin back? Do you think maybe Ghostin didn't want to come back? Do you think we're going to lean on Marshawn and Sam Williams or something like that? I think Ghostin was a valuable depth type dude for you. And he showed that he can start for you. Like if it's an emergency or whatever, Ghostin can start for you. And I think you want your
what
depth
position?
Edge.
Okay.
Full-blown edge. I think you want your depth guys to be like low-key kind of starters in an emergency, right? I don't think Peyton Turner. I don't think Peyton Turner can start a whole bunch of games for you, right? So I think we kind of got a little worse there. Why do you think Ghostin didn't?
See, that's where I think that they'll disagree with you on that. They think that Peyton Turner could be what Golston was.
There's upside.
Yeah.
They think there's upside.
Yeah, and
I'm sick of upside, honestly.
See,
I'm tired.
no.
I'm tired of upside. I'm sick
you,
of shooting dice on getting better. I'm sick of banking on coaches.
I'll tell you where I'm sick of. And Nick and I had this discussion yesterday on the break. Is like these guys with position flex.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you, what position do you think that Golston could play?
Yeah.
Because I think that they lost that. I think they lost that along his way in his career.
Sure.
Myself, and you immediately said edge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, someone finally standing up and saying he could.
That's where he's best. That's what
I'm saying.
It's where he's always been.
So
best.
to me, I think that they look at Peyton Turner as that guy. The length, the size. He doesn't. I don't think he rushes the passer as well as Golston. I'm not saying Golston's great,
Right.
but playing the run and all that stuff. I think that's where in their mind they're like, we would rather have. This is where I think they're. I wonder if they really misevaluated where some of these guys' money was going to come down. And you look at where Dowdle's money came down yesterday.
Carolina.
Yeah. You look where Jordan Lewis's money came down.
Yep.
Did you look at maybe with Golston? Did you even try? Did you think the money was going to be too much there? See, that's the and yeah.
Golston $6 million don't look too bad, or
That's what I'm saying.
Jay Lu's 10 doesn't look too bad.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think that they went into this thinking we could get Lewis back. We could get him back. They didn't expect Lewis to make $10 million, and Nick, I don't think they expected Rico Dowdle to make $3 million.
Yeah.
So that's I wonder if they got lost in their what the value of that player was going to be, and they quickly pivoted to other positions.
Who are their handful of biggest departures so far?
Jordan Lewis. Chauncey Golston.
Yep.
I mean, the guys that we just talked about. Rico.
DeMarcus,
Seawall's
okay,
a big
literally
one,
the first four names we named, they're all repped by the same person.
Yeah.
They're all repped by the same agent. Could be that you're having some headbutting right now.
That's very, very fair.
That's a good point.
That same agent has
Stop
two
being so
more.
logical.
That same agent has two more out there in Israel Mukwamu and Nick Vigil.
Yes, and so look, I mean, repping half the class here, and that's somebody who you've had some tough negotiations with in the past with DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yep.
It could just be that I think if they weren't coming to a place where his representation felt like on a number of
Do you
those,
feel like they didn't want to fight that fight? I mean,
No,
I'm asking you something tough.
They did for J. Lou.
I think Lewis they wanted to fight for. I think Jordan Lewis got more than they thought. I don't think they thought he was going to get 10
See,
million.
that's where I
3
thought
years.
I thought that they misevaluated the money that some of these guys were going to
Lewis-
get. I didn't think about the agent angle.
I think Dowdle got 2.75 with some stuff that could get him up to 6.
Yeah.
I think they thought Dowdle probably could have gotten around 3. I think they thought that was possible. I don't know that they would have been comfortable with, and I don't know what the incentives are. It makes me wonder if the incentives they weren't happy with. They thought, okay, those are incentives that we don't necessarily want to pay up to. So it could be something along those lines. But, I think Dowdle was a guy who he thought their anticipation, I think, from his side was that he was going to be able to get 6 on the market.
Yeah, I thought
and he got 6 up there with incentives, and so
they pivoted quickly.
I think they went to Javonte Williams,
Thinking, yeah.
and then
Now
that
it
market was not the same as probably what Dowdle thought it was going to be. Golston, I think that was around what they thought it could be, but I think they figured they can find something similar or cheaper in terms of return. And then Lawrence was one where I just think that was over. I think that had reached its end.
I agree. I think another part of the conversation at running back is, okay, if you're bringing back Dowdle, are you bringing him back as a 1B, or are you bringing him back as an RB2? What does that look like?
Sure.
And if you're bringing him back as an RB1, which is what he would expect after coming off a 1,000-yard season, over 1,200-yard scrimmage yards, if you're bringing him back as an RB1, then you're drafting an RB2 in a really deep running back class. Or you can go get a guy like Javonte Williams, who is okay being your RB2.
Sure.
He's a proven RB2.
Catch and
Be a
block,
receiving pass block.
yeah.
And then you go get a damn good RB1 in this draft. I think that's probably part of the thought process as well. It's just like, hey, this guy, he's played 4 years. He's got experience. Yes, he had that one injury, but it looks like he's bounced back from that. He's one of the best pass catching backs, one of the best pass blocking backs in this class.
That's true.
You pair that with an RB1 in the draft and let it roll.
Well, that might be why the market value was different for Dowdle than maybe his representation even thought about it initially, because teams are looking ahead and they're seeing the 2025 NFL draft class and saying, okay, we can get guys here that are going to do what Rico Dowdle can bring to the table.
And I don't know. Whenever I think of Dowdle, like if I'm starting to think of like describe Rico Dowdle, like one of the first words that comes to mind for me is violent. Like he's a violent running style, and I think there are questions for this organization. They've seen it for 5 years. How well is he going to hold up physically? because, I mean, it's been a challenge for him to stay healthy throughout his career. Yeah. And that violent running style, it's like, okay, how much do we anticipate that you can handle that consistently with this type of player that you are? Is your body going to be able to hold up into that? So I don't think they wanted to lean on him as a running back one, because I think they had concerns about, can they manage that consistently?
Kyle, if I can ask a question real quick, I guess you guys should check your boards. Give me a guy that you match with Williams that could be potentially that RB1 for you then. Just tell me off
just
your
a duo.
I think we may have talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Damian Martinez, I feel like could be a guy. I would want to load. I would want a guy who's a big guy. Taj Brooks, Damian Martinez, who can get you those short yards. But I'd also be okay with a Devin Neal, a guy that's had production, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, only missed 1 game in his entire career. Where's
the speed level on those guys? I mean, the quickness, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking juice guy.
Yeah, I was thinking, I love what you're doing with the physicality and the toughness of the player. If I needed, give me a guy to pair with him that's got juice.
Dylan Sampson.
RJ Harvey.
Okay.
He's got some breakaway speed.
Blue.
Okay.
RJ Harvey's got breakaway speed. Brashard Smith, although I think he's going to be more of a receiver at the next level, more of a slot guy. Yeah. But there are some speed guys. By Shell Tutin out of Virginia Tech, he had some great testing at the combine. There's some speed guys.
He plays fast too.
Yeah, he does.
And these are later round guys. I mean, you're not hitting Ginty or Hampton or Henderson or Johnson, any of those guys up at the top. If you wanted physicality, you could pair him with a guy like Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. He's got some physicality to his game. Marion Hampton's 220 pounds.
I'll tell you what.
Why
either of these Ohio State backs, I think would be.
That would be great.
I got a feeling that you're going to do something else at 12 and 44.
Talking about me specifically.
Yeah.
Other than
running back?
Other than running back?
Yeah.
No, I'd get a running back at 44. I wouldn't at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's only one there, and you don't think it would be.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he not going to be? Is he not going to be there just because of the depth of what we're starting to see at the top of this board?
I think it's that conversation we had.
At the top 10.
It's the
Raiders,
thing.
the Bears, starting to free up some, or the Bears starting to really load up on the offensive line, understanding what they are trying to do offensively. The Raiders, what they have done, they've gotten their quarterback. Well, I don't know if they did, but they said
for
they
now
got their quarterback. Yeah. And they just need a running back. They need a game-changing running back because that was the worst backfield in the NFL last year, hands down.
So I want to talk about replacements, but just in a different area, because we've talked about Javonte Williams, pairing him with somebody to replace Rico Dowdle. Talked about Solomon Thomas and Peyton Turner as possible replacements for Chauncey Golston on the defensive line. But the biggest name and the number one name that the Cowboys are going to have to replace is that nickel corner. Where are we going in this NFL draft when you look at the board top to bottom to try and replace Jordan Lewis and what he brought to the table? Is there a starting caliber nickel that's out there in the draft that you would be comfortable using one of your early premium picks on?
I tell you what, man, Barron is there, but do you draft Barron at 12 to just play nickel for you?
That's the question.
Because I think he can do fine just as an outside guy, but, and then also, too, just a Cowboys talk. Like, how far are we from just saying, all right, Bland, we've been having this conversation about you being a nickel guy. Just get another outside guy that you trust for real and just take Bland back to where he grew up, And,
I wonder if they feel like they're in a pinch, like I do think on the free agent market they're in a pinch right now if they wanted to try and address nickel there.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of options, and corner has gone.
Was our guy at Cincinnati that
Hilton, Mike Hilton,
older guy, right?
Older guy, and he's got injury history.
Okay.
That's just the thing. I don't know how much they can go that direction. I just don't know how much with some of the issues that they're having right now in terms of depth there, how much they want to lean on potentially a guy with that injury history. I do think that the cost on the free agent market for corners right now has been so high. Jordan Lewis at $10 million, he's on the bottom half of corners that have signed so far by a considerable amount. So to me, you're looking at the draft, and so are you going to draft a corner to play outside and move Bland in? Are you going to look in the third round? Are you going to look at Jacob Parrish? Or are you going to look at Barron?
Maxwell Harrison?
I was thinking, I don't have Harrison from Kentucky as a second-round player. Okay. But, man, you might have to hit him at 44.
Everybody loves him. So
you
have
to
get him
in the third?
What's that?
You have him in the third?
I do have him in the third, and I didn't move him.
I do too.
And I got him, and I like Noel Williams from Cal. You guys know that.
Those are two good ones, yeah.
So, but I'm kind of in that mode right now where Harrison's probably going to have to go at 44. Thomas from Florida State, do anything for you in the nickel?
I think he's more of an outside guy, but I could see nickel possibility.
6'1",
Wanye
191.
Thomas is- Wanye
Yeah,
Thomas'
Wanya's brother.
Yeah.
I really like Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State.
I-
and Quincy Riley out of Louisville. I think those are two. Really
See, I
strong
have
nickels.
both those guys in the 4th, and I have a feeling they're probably both going to go in the 3rd.
I think this team likes Thomas. I think they would probably view him outside though. But I mean, again, that's not going to be a problem if you just say Bland will play inside and that Bland will play the nickel. And that may be what they have to do. I think they thought they were going to get Jordan Lewis back.
Yeah.
And I think that this is kind of I think they're in a state right now where they're having to do some adjustments and trying to figure out where they might be able to find some answers.
You have a lot easier time convincing Deron Bland to play at nickel if you get an extension done with him before the season starts.
You got a lot of room.
saying,
You
just
got-
Somebody that knows something there.
yeah, look, you got a lot of room right now.
I wish your
Pretty
one
good at your
shot
job,
was
you
on
saying?
when you said that, because they're playing Jacob Parrish film, which, by the way, Zach Wolchuk just texted. He said he's the answer in terms of the nickel corner spot. But
I like Parrish. I mean, if you want to go Parrish,
I got him
third,
too low. I got him. I
I've got him
think I
pretty
got
low,
a
too.
couple of these guys too low.
I
There.
got him.
Where do you
in the
have Parrish?
I have Parrish in the 4th.
I got him in the 4th too.
when you're looking at you've brought up Jalen Kimber from Penn State before, right?
Yeah, it more so like a late day 3.
That's
flyer
a
type.
late guy,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's more so like guy.
Did
you
he
would
get
throw
a
in for
combine
competition.
invite? I don't think he did.
He did not get a combine invite. That was a surprise. Dan
Yeah.
Jackson was another one that was a surprise, even though I was kind of pooping on him on Tuesday. Another nickel type guy that I really liked coming out of the All-Star swing was Robert Longerbeam out of Rutgers. That's a guy that I've heard good things on. And then Jalen Smith out of USC. Really talented player who's played multiple spots in the secondary. Talking to a lot of DB trainers in Indianapolis, Jalen Smith is a guy that they feel like is not getting enough love in this draft process. So Jalen Smith would be another one. I think there's some talented nickels in this draft. I do. And if you feel like you have to wait till day 3 to go get one, now look, it's going to be tough finding a starter on day 3. But you might be in that situation because you have to fill some other holes on the first couple of days. I think you might be able to hit on one or two. Elijah Huzzie out of North Carolina really shined at the Shrine Bowl. I remember Isaiah Stanback. Me and him were sitting on the side of the sideline watching practice during the Shrine Bowl, and that was his favorite guy on the field. So Huzzie is another one I would throw out there.
Yeah, he liked him versus Mumpfield, the receiver out of Pitt. He liked seeing those guys go up against each other throughout. Now, Jalen Smith was the guy who stood out to me from a nickel standpoint. Remember when Tez Johnson was kind of turning heads at the Senior Bowl? There was one guy that stood up to him and actually had some success in the one-on-ones, and it was Jalen Smith against Tez.
I like his swipe celebration too. I like the way he swipes the field.
Is that what it is? Where's number 54 along the way?
Yeah. I just like the way he worked.
Yeah.
That celebration is my favorite.
I thought he went to Notre Dame, not USC.
Maybe that is it. Maybe
Other
I got
side
him
of the
mixed up.
ride.
Yeah, I might got him mixed
That's
up.
what it was.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, we've got some Twitter on the 20. Might have a question around the cornerback spot as well. Is it more likely for the Cowboys to address the nickel spot or to address the boundary like Voch was talking about and move Deron Bland inside? More to come for the draft show right after this.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, the Dallas Cowboys Flag Football League is here with nearly 100 participating high schools. The Cowboys are thrilled to provide opportunities for athletes to develop their talent and foster the growth of girls flag football in the state of Texas. Find teams, view schedules, and learn more at DallasCowboys.com/girlsflag. They had a big announcement a couple weeks ago about those flag football leagues. It's really a cool deal what they're putting together. Dak was out there. Charlotte Jones was helping promote it, and they're really making it a big deal.
Is that Danny McCray doing all that
Danny
stuff?
is doing a phenomenal
Go Tigers,
job.
Danny McCray.
Oh, yeah.
Give it about 20 years. We're going to be doing a draft show about quarterback MJ Prescott for the, for the girls flag NFL
Mississippi
league.
State.
Yep.
Mississippi State, rocking it.
Big time. That's the thing is it's now providing scholarships for flag football. Like schools are giving scholarships for it. It's really a cool deal. So really excited about that. Go get your info. DallasCowboys.com/girlsflag. All right. Mark Sears is the guy you're talking about.
Mark Sears.
In the break. We're talking some college hoops in the break. All right. It is time to talk NFL draft, and that means it's time for some
Twitter on the 20.
Twitter on the 20. All right. When we were talking about Javonte Williams earlier about the NFL draft side of things, with Javonte Williams on the roster outside of Ashton Jeanty, which one of those two? Oh, wait, that's actually the exact same question we just talked about. 2 or 3 round guys.
I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah, 2 or 3 round guys that we would end up being with. Okay, let's do.
Echo.
Yeah, let's do Christian's question. Okay. This is a this or that. You've got Mykel Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia that we talked about on Tuesday.
I'm already out.
And at 44, you got Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa. So you address your running back spot. Or you go with Luther Burden, wide receiver, at 12 out of Missouri. And you go with Donovan Jackson, edge rusher, at 40. Offensive lineman, guard from Ohio State at 44 to address your offensive line spot. So you're either running the ball with Johnson, or you're throwing the ball with Burden, and then you're playing a little defense with Mykel Williams, and Donovan Jackson's blocking for, I guess, Javonte Williams.
The Luther Burden Jackson one seems to have better players for me. I would love to have Johnson at 44, but I'd have attitude if we drafted Mykel Williams at 12. And there's people that think that I hate Mykel Williams. I don't hate Mykel.
Sounds like it.
I just wouldn't appreciate him at 12 overall. Well, because I think, if you're going to tell me why we're drafting him, right? He's a run guy that has upside as a pass rusher. I only really seen him, sack Texas. I ain't really see him sack anybody else. So I just think if I'm drafting at 12, I think there would be much better ready to go players right now. I'm not the guy that banks on upside. I love a good floor. I love what are you good at right now?
Yeah, because you're tired of upside.
I hate upside. Because I don't know if you work hard.
You fired.
I don't know if you work hard. I don't know how good coaching is here. But if I could just bank on anything, I want to bank on the guys that, okay, well, I know you have pass rush moves. I know that you can play the run. I know that you can line up in different spots, X, Y, Z. So I just feel safer with a Mike Green at 12 than I would Mykel Williams. You know what I'm saying? And then I saw him run this 40 on Twitter, and I was like, is he a 3-tech now? You know what I mean? So it's just a lot of questions. And Brian said this like a month ago. And I think if you're drafting at 12, you kind of want to take the dude with the least amount of questions. So that's why I would feel a little weird about Mykel at 12.
Do you have more concerns about you're looking at the roster right now? Do you have more concerns about this team rushing the passer or stopping the run?
Stopping the run for sure, but I think when you drafting in your first round, I don't want to think about the team. I just want to take the best possible dude.
And I understand that. I think more so, I guess I'm thinking about it from my standpoint of where I have Williams and Green a lot closer than maybe you do.
Sure.
And I see it from a standpoint of like, hey, Williams is a guy that I believe that you can put in day one, start, and he'll be able to stop the run and seal the edge off for you, similar to how DeMarcus Lawrence did early in his career. Now, granted, it's going to take some upside, like you said, to get to the pass rushing department. Yeah. But I think you can do that with the personnel that you have involved here. For me, Mike Green, you're bringing him in as a pass rusher, and you're giving up some in the run game there because of his length, because of his lack of versatility. Sorry, Brian. But I think with Mykel Williams, you have some fluidity as far as what you can do with him. That was just my opinion. But I am curious about not necessarily the Mykel Williams hate in the draft community. I understand where it comes from, but also factoring in his entire Georgia career. Yeah. He said he played at 60% last season, and 60% looked pretty damn good to me. Yeah. But I don't know. One thing to note, Matt Eberflus was at Georgia's Pro Day yesterday, front and center for Mykel Williams.
Got a lot of Georgia players there.
Yeah, they do, for sure.
12 overall matters to me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And he's a second-round grade for me, but that means he'll go like 19th overall or something like that, which is fine. But in my mind, if I had to pick between him and the best wide receiver on the board, I'm probably going to, choose the wide receiver or the D lineman or the other edge rusher that I just like a little bit more, or the corners that we've been, bearing in particular, right? So I would just rather those guys than Williams. And, if we got to reach for a 19th overall guy at 12, then cool. Now, if we trade back and we end up with Mykel Williams, then we can party and celebrate then. But 12, no.
I feel like at trade back scenarios, all bets are off at that point because you could go anywhere. You could go with the cornerback spot. You could go with one of those other second-tier wide receivers that slips. You could go with anybody there and kind of turn it around. With kind of that in mind, William asked the question, there's been the conversation about 12 to 13 true first-round grades. You mentioned that a minute ago.
I got 14, yep.
After the combine and now that we're getting in the pro days, has that changed at all for any of you guys? Where is your board at in terms of your first-round grades across it?
Film is king. I don't want to change it because somebody, run well. Or
Fair.
Yeah.
What if somebody runs really poorly? Are you more likely to change a grade based on somebody performing really poorly at the combine or performing really well?
I tend not to do either one.
Yeah.
I didn't used to, and then I got burned by Tease Tabor one year.
Tease Tabor will burn you.
Tease Tabor, that was the only thing Tease Tabor would burn because he was not running with anybody, apparently, with his 4.62 40 at his size. But
it's amazing how well he played on film, though.
Yeah, he was really good on film.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't run, and he got to the NFL, and he was a mess. And he was somebody on tape that looked like a first-round player, and then he ran 4.62, and you go, okay, well, why is a 5'11", 190-pound corner running 4.62? That's not good.
I kind of feel like these guys can train for 40s. That's what bothers me a little bit.
40s be lying,
Yeah, you could get a guy like, and we've talked about, and I'm the example I always use is the Ursary from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Tested really, really well. He doesn't play like he tests.
Sure.
So those are the kinds of things I'm with Voch. Listen, I would rather die on the hill, the film hill, than I would the workout hill.
I think there is value seeing these people up close in person.
Yeah.
More so in like a Senior Bowl or a Shrine Bowl type
I totally agree with you.
But a combine testing, you do have to take it with a grain of salt. There's a reason it exists, and there's a reason that all 32 teams go and they see these guys in person. But I think there is only certain value you put in.
Tyler Shuck ran 4.64 at the combine. Tyler Shuck, the quarterback.
So that's why I don't know.
So Shuck ran 4.64. When he first got into training, he was running 5.05. Yeah. So, I mean, like, you're talking, and it kind of depends on the margins. How out of shape does somebody show up when they start training, how much they can add to their stuff. Other guys...
Do they learn how to start?
Yeah, look, I mean, Traylon Burks, he ran 4.50 a couple years ago, I think. Burks showed up, he was running 4.65. So, I mean, like, you can get some, but, like, I mean...
Is that why you knock a guy, though? Like a Tez Johnson, for instance, out of Oregon. I mean, he plays faster on tape than he did actually running the 40. Does that tell you something about work ethic or training or any kind of element there?
I don't know how you could go to the combine and not be ready for it.
Exactly, right.
That tells me more about your character than it does anything.
That's the question, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the testing doesn't bump anybody necessarily for me. What it will do is it'll make me go back and go like, okay, was I seeing something wrong? Mm-hmm. Like if
when you watch Golden play, what do you see? Do you see a 14.9 guy? Yeah.
I didn't expect him to run 4.2, but like when I see a guy who's fast.
You see a guy who's fast.
Yeah. No, and like I mean, there's some guys that when I see the testing, it's like, okay, I didn't expect you were gonna run like that. And then there are other guys where it's like, wow, I really expected you to be faster. Tony Pollard was not a 4.5 guy on the field to me. Like he ran 4.52 or whatever he did at the combine. That was not a 4.5 player in pads on the field. There is a little bit of a difference with game speed and different things like that. I had, if you count the double first round grade as receiver and corner for Travis Hunter, then I had 15. If you count him as one player, then I had 14, and I still got 14.
I've got 15, and I'm pretty solid at that number. I feel pretty good about 15.
Nick, have you seen Kobe Hudson? from
UCF.
Yeah,
talented player.
That's a dude.
Talented
right there.
player.
See, that's what I'm saying. There's a 4.5 guy that plays a lot faster than 4.5 on tape.
Mm-hmm.
He ran like 4.51 at the combine. He's a pretty impressive guy.
Speaking of guys who had some pretty good combines, Ty Felton from Maryland. So Daryl asked the question. He said, why is Ty not getting the love? He had a good combine. He's got some decent film at Maryland. Anything on Ty Felton from you guys?
I have not watched his film yet.
Okay.
Yeah, just a bigger set guy. Not bigger set, more so long and outside receiver that you could definitely see pop on late day 2 or early day 3. I think he's a talented player. You talk about production, he certainly has it. He was a third-team All-American this last season. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily lack of love for him. I mean, you look at the production he had last year: 96 receptions, 1,124 yards. Both of those stats led the Big Ten. I think this is a guy who's getting properly valued at this point in the process. I think the testing certainly did help him out, though.
Where'd you have him?
I have him in the 4th.
4th round?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Moving forward. He was a Senior Bowl guy as well. He was out there from Maryland, Ty Felton.
It didn't really shine at the Senior Bowl. Maybe that was an expectation from some people, and maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, you had other guys kind of step up, like a Jack Beck.
Can you tell me who your 4th round guys are, please?
At
wide receiver?
Yeah.
I will say that I don't have all of them put together right now. So we'll have.
If I could throw, let me. Can I throw my 4th round at you? You tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Bryant from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hudson from UCF. Mm-hmm. Higgins, Iowa State, and Bond from Texas. How would you rate him among those guys?
So I have Higgins above that list.
Right.
I would have Bond second. Who are the other ones you threw out there?
Bryant and Hudson.
Bryant and Hudson. I would go Hudson Bryant.
So Hudson from UCF, Pat Bryant from Illinois.
Yeah.
Who were the other names? You said Bond from Texas.
Right. So you have this Maryland kid above all those guys. Is that how?
Ty Felton?
No, I have him in the 4th.
That's what I'm saying. Above Bryant, Hudson, Higgins, Bond?
No, I have Higgins and Bond in the. I have Higgins as a 2nd round grade. Bond is a 3rd.
Okay, I see.
Then,
I see what you're.
The others are 4th.
Okay, got you.
Got it. Anybody watch Jordan James out of Oregon, running back? We had Brian. He wants to know. Tell me more about Mr. Jordan James.
Yeah, I'm a big Jordan James guy. I think Oregon's done a fantastic job in evaluating running backs. And if you don't believe me, ask this front office. They interviewed their running backs coach for the running backs coach position here.
Yep.
Rashad Samples. He's a DFW guy. But Oregon, really talented player. He ran hard for the Ducks this last season. I like his set at 5'10", 210. I think that is like the perfect running back physique. I think if you take that and you put that on the field, I think it translates perfectly. He has some ability out of the backfield. This is a guy I think you could take in the 3rd round at 76 and you'd be comfortable with it.
Yeah, whenever I watched him, I mean, I looked at him, one of the more explosive backs in the country last year, electrifying runner, twitchy movements, make it hard on first contact, runs bigger than his body type, uses every part of the field by Oregon. He was used in the red zone. He was used on the outside, used in the flat. He was a receiver out of the backfield. Maybe not an every down back because he is a little bit smaller.
He's not.
Yeah, I think he's going to be kind of one of those mid-round guys that you could pick up and give quality snaps to, but he's not a 3-down guy.
Yeah, he punches up though. He's smaller, but he's pretty physical for pound. He's one of the more physical running backs.
They sub him out as a pass protector.
Yeah, they do.
I got him in
the but just as a physical runner, like that's a brutal.
No, the running part of it is really, really great. I think the strength of a runner is really, he'll fight for extra yards, all those stuffs. If he has a weakness, it's at a pass protector, and he doesn't have a great route tree. I'm sure he catches the ball better. But you watch Oregon, he does not run a lot of routes. Yeah. But I worried about the pass protection part of it.
Which Shoddy has mentioned before, like that is a component that he wants to see out of the backs. He wants to see them be able to do different things in the passing.
It might not be his fault. It might be the coordinator's fault there for the routes, but I didn't see a lot of them.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, too, it was kind of an imperfect offensive line play up front, too. I mean, they had some good guys up front. We've talked a lot about Connerly out of the tackle spot. There were times where he would just get lost in the wash.
He's a chunk player guy, man.
Yeah, he would make it happen. I had him in the bottom half of the 3rd, so 3rd, 4th is kind of right around. Yeah. Where'd you have him, Brian?
I believe him in the 4th round.
4th round, yeah, about the same. All right. Now, this question has to do with what I want to talk about in the 3rd segment. I want to leave a little bit of time here. The question was from Ty. He wants to know, how has free agency and how have these trades kind of affected what could happen before the Cowboys at pick number 12? So we're going to take our break. We're going to answer that question, kind of sneak in another Twitter on the 20 question, talk about how things can shake out from 1 to 11 to affect what the Cowboys may have available at pick 12 in front of them in this April's NFL draft. More of the draft show right after this.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? Or how about them Tyson Cowboys Nuggets? As we cheer for the stars on the field, we love that we've also got some stars on our plate, thanks to Tyson brand star-shaped Cowboys Nuggets. That, along with all our other favorite Tyson Foods products, sure make game day special. Score some delicious Tyson Cowboys Nuggets and become a game day star, just like our Cowboys. As you enjoy your stars on and off the plate, remember, tailgates and game day have always been Tyson.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
My bad, man.
Back here on the Draft Show, PBR World Finals are returning to AT&T Stadium. It all starts on May 16th with Kid Rock's Rockin' Rodeo. Then on May 17th and 18th, the finalists compete in the 2025 PBR Championship. Let's rock and ride. Tickets are on sale now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium. Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris. That was Voch Lombardi whenever he's in the back talking about Michael Williams. That's exactly what it was. And then we've got Bobby Belt. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. Wanted to update. This is what the draft pick situation looks like. Remember, the Cowboys early this week received 4 compensatory picks, 3 in the 5th round, 1 in the 6th round. Well, with the Kyer Elam and the Kenneth Murray deals, it's kind of flip-flopped a little bit since then. So currently on the board, and this is what it is at the moment, it's probably going to change at some point soon because who knows if they're done or not. But they still have 12, 44, 76. That has not changed in the first 3 rounds. Then you skip the 4th round. Remember, that pick is gone for Jonathan Mingo. But then you've got 3 5th-round picks still, 149, 171, and 174. You go into the 6th round, you've got 2 picks there, 204, 211. 204 is what you got back from the Bills in the Kyer Elam trade. And then 2 picks in round 7, 237 overall, acquired from the Titans in the Kenneth Murray deal. And then 247 is what you have there in the 7th. So
essentially, you took one of your 5th-round picks and you just moved it back to the 7th.
That's exactly what happened.
Essentially.
So you still have all those picks. You still have the darts at the dartboard. 10 overall selections, 3 5ths, 2 6, 2 7s, and that's what you've got right now. Could possibly package those to try and move up and get back into the 4th. That's definitely not out of the equation as well. But, Bobby, when you look up in front of the Cowboys with all of the free agent signings and movement and whatever's happened over the last 72 to 4 days or 72 hours, 4 days or so, what is the biggest change in front of the Cowboys that could possibly affect what's available at 12?
So the biggest thing to me and the biggest wild card to me right now that's a little concerning to me is just how much San Francisco's been eviscerated.
Yeah.
Because San Francisco's directly in front of you, and now San Francisco's just in a position where it's like, well, we could take anything we want. And so I think that they're in a spot where that's just going to be that's going to give you a difficult read. Like directly in front of you, you don't know what they could be looking at, or they could just be looking at best player available. So if somebody happens to be sliding that you're hoping for, San Francisco could go, well, we could use that. We could use anything right now. Let's jump on that.
I would worry about San Francisco trading out for picks. San Francisco seems like a team that's selling right now, and I would worry about them all of a sudden, like people kind of get a read on Dallas. Say that Genty does make it down. Say he gets past the Raiders and the Jets and he gets past Chicago and all that. And now you're thinking, okay, well, there's a player we're focusing in on. And somebody just behind you is like, listen, we see what's going on. That's the best player on the board. Health, character, ability, boom, that's our guy. And they get ahead of Dallas. There's teams that have done that to Dallas a couple of times in drafts where they've had to, like, all of a sudden the guy that was on the board for them or how it was looked, and then they get traded in front. People have done a pretty good job. And I think what happens is, to be honest with you, Dallas's draft is covered so much. These teams have kind of figured out, watch the draft show. Figure out what's kind of, and I'm serious.
It's true.
I'm serious. This team is covered so extensively in the draft. I think people in these pro departments and college scouting departments get a gauge of what's going on maybe with the Cowboys, and they're able to make really good, educated guesses of who they might take. And you could kind of say, hey, we got to get up ahead of that if we want that guy.
Do you think that's why 2 years ago or whenever it was, the whole Michael Mayer thing came out?
Sure.
And then the Bills are like, oh, well, they're obviously looking for tight ends, so let's jump and go get Kincaid. But I don't think the Cowboys were looking at Kincaid for real. Like, do you think that's why?
Well, and Dallas Goedert was that way too. If you remember, Philly believed that Dallas was going to take.
That was just from Witten. Witten retiring that weekend.
Sure,
because they just naturally assumed, well, they must be going for Goddard. So we got it.
But I think that we do a really good job, and I'm not doing this as a pat on the back. I'm just saying we cover this team in a way that if you watch these shows, you could kind of figure out what they need. Yeah. I mean, you could look at you could watch your own tape, but like my point is, San Francisco is to me a very dangerous team to have in front of you the whole day because of they're probably looking at this thing. The most famous trade they ever made, Bill Walsh. He had a very high pick and just kept going back and back and back and back and just picking up picks. And that was the draft in the 80s that got them propelled to their Super Bowl teams. This team has a history of doing stuff like that.
If you look at who's been active ahead of them in free agency so far and where that could potentially shift things, Carolina's been very active in the secondary. Mm-hmm. They've added a bunch of different pieces there. They just re-signed J.C. Horn. They added Trayvon Merrick. I think there was another corner that they added in free agency. The Raiders getting Geno Smith, that has raised some questions, it seems like, of people who are covering things with the Raiders, that's where Genty goes now, that they just look at it and say, well, we can go Genty, we're solid with Geno, especially if the Giants end up saying they're not comfortable with whatever they settle on in quarterback in free agency, whether that's Aaron Rodgers or somebody else, because you would imagine number one will be Cam Ward, whether that's to the Titans or whoever goes up and gets him. Number three, at that point, you would think Giants could very easily go Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. Of course, there's also Dane Brugler talked about it. Dane said, coming out of Indy, he was like, there's a chance Shedeur's sitting there when you're picking at 12.
I was about to say, I want to prepare people for that conversation because it's a conversation we're going to have on this show. If Shedeur is there at 12, we're going to have the conversation. It's not going to happen, but I just want to prepare people for the conversation.
Him being there, or Dallas?
Him being there.
Okay.
Because you look at Cleveland at 2. They're hosting Russell Wilson for a visit today. The Giants looking at Aaron Rodgers really hard. Vegas went and got Geno Smith. New York Jets went and got Justin Fields and seem okay with it. You go back and everyone else has got their quarterback. Yeah. So I mean, it's
Browns also went and got Kenny Pickett too. So they've got Pickett, Watson. They're hosting visits. I mean, there's a chance that he could fall down there unless the Giants just say we're going this direction. I don't know. I mean, one of the big things is Jacksonville, it seems like, did a lot to kind of address offensive line as well. So that was kind of a thought at one point. Will Campbell could go there. So if Will Campbell's not going to Jacksonville at 5, And then you see, okay, 6, the Raiders maybe take somebody else. Now you're starting to talk about, is there a chance Will Campbell gets pushed down a little bit?
Yeah.
And you might be in play for that. And then that's a question.
Watch the Texans with Will Campbell. I could see them jumping up really high to go.
Just
grab
traded Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah.
You can maybe
Just traded Kenyon Green.
Oh yeah, Kenyon's.
I don't think Houston views Campbell as a tackle though. I think
He would be a guard.
I think Houston thinks of him as a guard.
Which they just traded their guard, so that you've got some movement there. Now the Sanders conversation is intriguing because remember the backup quarterback situation is still unsolved here in Dallas. You've got that connection. You've got the thought process.
No.
I mean, I'm like you said, it's a conversation that has to be had because at least when we look at the breadcrumbs of what has happened in this front office before, and Johnny Manziel is the first thing that comes to mind. They didn't make that pick, but there was somebody in the front office that wanted to make that pick. And we just talked about it during his retirement press conference and Zach Martin and what it was with Johnny Manziel. No chance that that's a legitimate conversation upstairs. Is there?
The fact if they did, he'd be on a rookie contract. It would not expire, or he'd be going into his 5th year after Dak Prescott's contract is already out. It makes no sense at all. I'm just preparing people.
Who did see it last year with Atlanta doing the same thing. They went and signed Kirk Cousins. Now, separate situation. It wasn't the homegrown talent. It wasn't the guy.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Atlanta had just signed Kirk Cousins to a multi-million-dollar huge contract.
And look how dumb that decision has
and
turned
then
out.
turned around to Michael Penix and drafted him in the top 10.
You're also looking at because
Yeah,
I mean here's the only
either.
here's the only problem too is if you're looking at that it's like well maybe you can have a trade down scenario.
Yeah, like if Santa's on the board,
Somebody's going to come and
I'm
get him.
calling in.
Exactly.
Hey, man, tap in with us.
Maybe Indy comes up for it, but like outside of that, you look behind it. It's Miami. They just paid Tua. It's Atlanta. They've got Penix.
I can see Arizona.
I don't see Shador as a Pittsburgh Mike Tomlin type of player. Maybe, but I don't think that's a. I don't know that he would look at that and go, "That's
Why
my
would I
idea."
at 12 take Jackson Dart over him?
I don't.
Over Shador?
Yeah.
You have Jackson Dart ahead of Shador?
I mean, I have not studied the quarterbacks extensively, but why, when I keep watching Ole Miss tape, I kind of feel nothing against Sanders. I kind of feel like Jackson Dart might be a better player.
I mean, so it's interesting if you look at the odds, the odds that Vegas places on number 1 picks. Not that any of us would take part in that, because that would go against NFL rules. But the odds that are put out there on it, Cam Ward is the overall favorite to be the number 1 pick. Yeah. Then it's like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and so you get to the 7th best odds to go number 1 is Jackson Dart, and it's all like they're astronomical odds, but it's because teams so value quarterbacks and will go. All right, there's a chance somebody could fall in love, and so momentum builds, and you could have that. So, I mean, Dart could be somebody that goes up. I heard more and more out there while we were in Indy that it does seem like there are some teams that really like Shador Sanders and have him as their number 1 quarterback. It sounds like there's a lot more people out there who maybe there's a random executive or a random team that's like, we like Tyler Shuck more than Shador, or we like Jackson Dart more than Shador. There's not a consistent feel about him from team to team and evaluator to evaluator.
Tyler Shuck's going to get a GM fired.
What is up?
Talk to him, Nick.
What is up with the hype around him right now out of Louisville? And again, quarterbacks are one of the last positions I look at too.
Y'all might have a better perspective than me. I think it's the testing. I think it's the combine performance. You pair that with a really damn good agent, and I think it's why Tyler Shuck's gotten a lot of love.
I think,
but I have Kyle McCord over this guy.
Yep.
I have hold on, let me go back to my board if it would load for me. Jackson Dart. Should I have Dylan Gabriel over this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Quinn Ewers. I'm
Riley Leonard.
There was a.
I mean,
so
I'm
Tyler,
not huge on Riley Leonard.
Let's not go that far.
Tyler Shuck has spent.
Listen, I'll stand on the table for Riley Leonard as like a day 3 guy.
I have him in the 7th,
but I don't have him. Yeah, I mean that's where I have
That'd be
Shuck
an other
right
on
now.
your board.
You know?
Yeah, probably.
Other.
What is it?
An other.
Other.
Like on my board, I don't
UD.
put 6s and 7s or whatever. I just go to 5th round and it's just everybody else. I just put them
that's
down.
fair.
Tyler Shuck enrolled at Oregon before the Cowboys drafted Leighton Vander Esch. And Leighton Vander Esch has now retired. And so that's how long ago Tyler Shuck entered college. But the thing with Shuck,
I thought you were about to say the Cowboys became an organization.
No. Shuck, but I mean, he's going to be 26 soon. He's an older quarterback. I think the thing with Shuck is the NFL has, because he's been in college for so long, there was a time 3 years ago where some of these scouting agencies that the NFL uses their services had looked at it. He's they really liked him a few years ago.
Kind of like Blesto and National.
Yeah, they thought really highly of him at one point. And so I think that the league also had a high opinion of his upside at one point. He dealt with injuries. He had other things happen. So I also think that there's this kind of long-standing love affair that some of the league has had with him for a while. That also might explain why it's finally coming to fruition. This guy that they've had some eyes on for a few years.
Broken collarbone, shoulder surgery, broken fibula. He's missed a ton of time during his college career. He's got the size, 6'5", 230, and I think
that's all
probably
spread out over like 12 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not that bad when you take that context in. He's got the size, 6'5", 230. I understand the appeal. It's not for me. Not my cup of tea.
It's kind of a weird conversation, the shug element of it. Any other spots to highlight between 1 through 11?
Yeah, I think when we're just looking at this, that's the bigger questions right now are some of these active teams like Jacksonville and Carolina. Yeah. Like, how does that potentially shift things?
New England?
New England has had some. So New England has signed
a lot of. New England seems like a bailing team to me.
New England, yeah. So for a long time, the popular mock pick to New England was Tet McMillan, and that kind of cooled a couple months ago.
And then it became Graham.
Graham was a really popular one.
Right.
They just signed Milton Williams.
Right.
They added Tonga, who's not a 3 technique, but they've added to the defensive line. And so I kind of wonder, do they want to keep doing that with Carter? Does Mike Vrabel sit there and fall in love with somebody like Jalen Walker? I'm going to be interested to see that. I know that Mike Vrabel, for the old school mentality, he gets hit with a lot. The second things really turned for him in Tennessee was when they traded A.J. Brown and he didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder if he would prioritize somebody like McMillan. Because I can't figure out why people are falling out of love with McMillan. That feels like Kyle Hamilton at receiver to me, where it's like, people have been
safety. You mean
Kyle Hamilton, what he was in the draft a couple years ago, where everybody said that's a top 5 talent. And somehow he just kept sliding down, where it's almost like people got fatigued hearing about him for so long.
Yeah, how did
and
that
overthought him? Right. That eventually
Kyle Hamilton's now an all-pro.
I wonder if Tet McMillan's sort of the same way. People are just starting to overthink him a little bit and are not. They're losing sight of what kind of a great player he is, which is, to me, one of the 3 best players in the draft.
Signing Mac Hollins, does that deter New England from going and getting a guy like T-Mac?
I wouldn't. God, if it was my team, I sure hope they wouldn't say we got Mac Hollins. We don't need Tet McMillan.
Yeah.
But potentially, I mean, New England's one of these teams that they need everything. I think anybody who's clearly in a period of change like San Francisco is, or has a new staff, is always a threat ahead of you. So New Orleans is also, you don't know how they're going to go. Well, we look like we have somebody here, but our new staff doesn't like that guy, so we need somebody.
It was like the Anthony Edwards quote in the playoffs last year. They got Kevin Durant. We got Josh McDaniels.
All equivalent.
I'm bringing an NBA quote at least once every show.
Jaden McDaniels.
You find a way.
Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels.
I was about to say.
I would hope not.
Josh. That's what threw me off. I was like, Josh McDaniels.
It was all this Patriot talk.
Yeah, getting right back into it. And remember, new head coaches kind of all scattered throughout 1 through 11 anyway, so it's going to be tough to tell, just like you said, who they're going to fall in love with, what these staffs like. We've got a new head coach to deal with, too, in that same kind of element, so it's tough to really see exactly what 1 through 12 is going to look like.
May I ask Bobby a question?
Of course.
So, Bobby, you're my what the league says guy. You know what I'm saying? On last draft show, it seems that we were in different places about Josh Simmons, right? What's the league saying now that his knee is healthy? Like, is he going to be a dude that teams are looking at to possibly be like a top 10 guy, or is he still going to be in that late first conversation like he wants?
I mean, I think that I don't think he's top 10 at all. That I haven't heard any buzz from that. In fact, I've heard more. Not just about the injury. I've just heard more split opinions on him, where some people think like, oh yeah, that's a first-round tackle, and some others who are just a little bit more, no, that's more like a second guy to me.
I think that's so strange, because I think he's the best offensive lineman in this whole damn draft, and I think that's weird.
Best O-lineman?
I think he's good.
I think he's the best O-lineman in this whole damn draft. I think he's ahead of Johnson, Banks. I think he's ahead of all those guys. I like as a left tackle.
This is coming from a Tyler Booker stand.
I love me some Tyler Booker, but just watching the film on Simmons, like how he moves, like technique. He's a run game guy, pushing people in the run game. Great pass block. I mean, yeah, he got hurt, and if we're gonna use the hurt situation, right? I get it if we're using hurt, but if you get a tap on your shoulder and say, "Hey, his knee is fine." I'm thinking his knee is fine is like a Will Johnson 40 for us, like a good 40. Like that should boost him in my personal opinion.
Sure.
And I just saw nothing but dominant tape for him this year. Like last year, 2023 tape, growing pains or whatever, he had to kind of make some adjustments or whatever. But up till he got hurt, I'm thinking he beating the hell out of people. And I'm listening to people talk about Josh Simmons. Oh, yeah, he'll go in the 20s or something. Yeah, maybe a second-round guy. I think Simmons is a dude.
He's a classic tackle, too.
I think
in a draft where you kind of wonder if some of these tackles are better guards like Banks and Campbell and stuff like that. Simmons is like, that's a legitimate tackle. And so anybody who wants I want a clean tackle prospect, depending on how you feel about where he's at, then he would be near the top, I would imagine.
I think if he was in last year's draft, I think we'll be like, okay, well, there's Alt and there's all, there's Olu and there's these. I think he'll be like the fourth guy in that list. I think he'll be right ahead of Latham. Yeah. I think he'll be right ahead of Mims. I think that highly of him. And if you can take that dude and put him in this draft where we don't have a lot of faith in the dudes in this draft, I think he'd be a slam dunk, top 10, 15 type dude. But I'm just not hearing people talk about him like that. And I think that's a little wild. I'm not gonna call it nonsense because I respect everybody, but I think that's nonsense. I think he has some fantastic film.
I'm not gonna call it nonsense, but I think that's nonsense.
I think he's a dog. Please go ahead.
This is a very strange draft, and I know you've talked about this, Brian, about how many players are coming in, especially at the top, that are hurt.
Yeah.
Not only the corner position, but we're talking about tackles as well. We're talking about a couple running backs as well, and then we're also talking about a lot of guys where it's like, check the 23 tape because the 23 tape, you see the ceiling there. This is a difficult draft to evaluate, and I think anybody that puts in the time and the effort in this draft, kudos to you, kudos to everybody on this show. This is going to be a tough one. I think there's going to be some misses in this draft in the first round for sure, but I also think there's going to be some random hits because you see a 24 tape and you're like, but there's maybe some bright spots earlier in a guy's career that shines in the NFL. So this is an interesting class.
I will say,
Josh Simmons is a perfect example of that.
One last thought on Simmons, or one last opinion from around the league on Simmons. I do know that there's one team that thinks Grant's better, Charles Grant.
William and Mary.
Then Josh Simmons.
Team suck at drafting.
Yeah. I'm not agreeing. I'm just saying.
Hey yo, Beam, put the camera on me, please, Beam. Beam, please, Beam. Okay, Beam. Teams suck at drafting. I ain't trying to hear none of that nonsense. Go ahead, Kyle.
That's gonna do it for us here on the draft show.
Make that a short. Put that on Twitter, please.
Yeah, clip it.
William and Mary, please.
Charles Grant. That's funny.
They didn't even have enough class to show up to the Senior Bowl. Please, really? Yeah. And Josh Simmons mauling Big Ten talent, and Charles Grant whooping the damn Towson kids. Please, Kyle, get somebody.
He's like giving them hugs too.
Please,
he's so wide.
Por favor.
Grant's so wide.
He was a little grabby at times, it's just part of it. All right, for Nick Harris, for Bryan Broaddus, Voch Lombardi, Bobby Belt, Chris Beam in the back of Kyle Youmans saying so long from the draft show. We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?